What is up? This is Spot MMA here, and I'm very late to this video. That is because I'm a giant Yuri Prochazka fan, and I have been locking myself in a dark room for about 3.5 days after his brutal KO loss at UFC 327. But we are back. We are mentally unrattled, and I'm back to break down UFC 327, starting with the early prelim opener of Charles Radke versus Francisco Prado. A decision for Charles Radke, and he looked pretty good. There was the boxing of Prado was giving him troubles early, which I thought was a little surprising, because I thought Radke was going to be able to power max and big meaty hook max his way on the feet and then work in the takedowns. Wasn't really able to. Prado had some good shots from on the feet, up close, and but Radke was able to mix in the grappling and get a pretty clear decision. Yeah, I mean, this was a fight that Charles Radke was in control of pretty much the whole time. Prado had some moments, like it looked like he was stinging Radke a couple times, but Radke outlanded him on strikes 121-41. Wow. Maybe it wasn't as close as I thought it was, but it was decently close. I mean, but the real story about this fight is not the story of this fight is not the fight. The story is Charles Radke saying it again. He has risen, and he has said it again. I didn't think he was gonna get the chance. If he was on a fight night, he wouldn't have gotten the chance, because I don't know, but I didn't think he was going to get a post-fight speech. He did. He makes him pay for it. Good on you, brother. He says it again. It's been like 3 years of us waiting for him to say it again. Preferably you'd say it again after a big KO win, but a great decision. Nonetheless, we still say it again, and it's a good win for Charles Radke. He is very good. He's going to be looking at someone like just outside the top 15, I think, here. Maybe someone a little lower than that, but, he's on a decent little, I think, I'm not going to really check into it, but I'm pretty sure he's won 2 since being KO'd by Malott. So, good for him. Hopefully he keeps the win streak going. He's a fun guy. Good personality for the sport. Very funny guy. Good performance, mixing the grappling. Outpaced him on the feet, even though he was getting stung a couple times on the inside. He looked good, though. The grappling, always, having that power in the grappling is always going to take you far in whatever division you're in. So I think Radke can stick it out. I don't think he beats anyone that's too great. Like, I don't think he'll ever get ranked or anything. But he could be like that just outside the rankings kind of gatekeeper guy. And I think he can hold that down for a little while here. So, good for Charles Radke. I love Radke. He says it again. Awesome stuff. Up the card, Kelvin Gastelum gets darsed by the Darst Knight, Vicente Luque. Picked Luque. A lot of people weren't picking Luque. A lot of people had Gastelum winning this one, but I just thought, man, middleweight for Vicente Luque, I liked the move. He looked big. He looked like filled out for the division. This wasn't one where it's like, the guy looks just pudgy or he looks completely out of shape like Kelvin Gastelum. This was a Vicente Luque that was in shape for middleweight or welterweight or middleweight. I was right the first time. And he looked good. He drops Kelvin on the inside with a big uppercut, and then he jumps on the darce when Kelvin tries to get up and he tries to get up on like a double leg, I think. And Luque's able to lock in that darce, transitions to the anaconda, gets him out of there. Actually, no, I don't think it was an anaconda, actually. I think it was just a straight darce. I don't think he had to transition, so looks good. Good stuff for Vicente Luque, a legend of the sport. You love seeing a guy like that get a big dub at this point in his career. He's coming off the Joel Alvarez fight, which was a pretty bad beatdown, so always good to see a legend get a big dub, and the Darst Knight getting another Darst victory. Love to see it. Prediction right. I got 2 right on the card so far. Once we started getting going into the card, I was like, hold on, I'm going to start to do really good. We ended really bad, but at the start of the card, I was thinking I might have gone undefeated. It didn't happen that way. I got a lot of picks wrong. But up the card to Chris Padilla versus Markel Medeiros. Interesting. Good fight, first of all. I'll talk about the fight first, and I'll talk about the decision later. this was a good fight. This is a very technical lightweight, two very technical lightweight prospects going on it, and a very technical fight. A lot of leg kicks, good elbows from both guys on the inside. Medeiros landed a good elbow in round 1 that could have swung the round for him. But I thought that Taco won pretty clear. I thought Taco won rounds. I thought he won the first round, even though he got cut above the eye with the elbow, and I thought he won the third round, I think. Yeah, I thought he won the third and the first. I gotta check. I'm trying to check the number. This fucking UFC site is so bad. I'm trying to, and it's just crashed. I don't know what's going on. Okay, there we go. We're back. Round 1. Strike numbers. Let's see. Nope, it's going to round 2. What is going on? All right, fuck it. We're not doing the strike numbers. Who gives a shit? Yeah, this was. They read the decision live, and they said it was 29-28 majority decision for Chris Padilla. Very much like a couple weekends ago in Seattle, Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune, where that fight they read the decision and they called Tyrell Fortune back into the cage to reread a decision. In this one, they don't bring him back in; they just change it. I didn't even know that it was a draw. Because I left after the fight got read. I was like, all right, perfect. I watched Chris Padilla's interview. He was gassed, by the way. This was a very high output fight, but he was huffing and puffing on the post fight interview, you know. But he deserved a win here. I hope they still gave him his win bonus because this was a great fight and a great performance for Chris Padilla. You know, he looks better every time. This was a really good performance against a really good game opponent, Mark Medeiros, who's, he's a Benson Henderson's boy. He's well trained. Not boy, like he's his son. He just gets his coaches. He's Benson Henderson's protege. And he looked good. Medeiros looked good with the leg kicks. You know, he had good elbows on the come in, but Padilla was just too crafty. Like I said, Padilla's tough out. He's a tough out, and he's a guy I could see getting ranked, for sure, because he looked really good in this fight. And he looks good in every fight. You know, he's able to push a pace. You know, maybe if he ever gets to like a main event, that'll give him some problems because he was huffing and puffing. But this was a really high output fight, so, you know, we don't need to look too much into that, I don't think so. But weird, really weird. This was scored a draw after the fight was over. Because usually, you know, I don't think it should have been a draw. Like, I don't know how they come to the conclusion that it was a draw. I thought it was really clear for Chris Padilla, so I guess a judge scored it for Medeiros, which is crazy, in my opinion. Like, I thought, but anyway, I can't really yap about that any more than I have, so we'll move up. Chris Padilla looked good. This is my first wrong prediction of the card because of the decision, or the draw, but I thought that Chris Padilla should have gotten the nod, personally. So, in my opinion, I'm 3-0 in the card so far. And I thought I was 3-0 when I was watching the card live. You know, I was getting pretty fired up, thinking that I was going to go undefeated. And that came crashing down with this next fight. Tatiana Suarez versus Poopy Gardinez. And Poopy had a really poopy performance in this one, I'm going to be honest. I picked Poopy Gardinez to win. I thought she was going to put that pace on her, put the striking on her, and to be able to defend the grappling to an extent. And 30 seconds into the fight, I thought I got it right because Poopy Gardinez clobbers Tatiana Suarez with a nice shovel uppercut and hurts Tatiana bad. Has Tatiana panic shooting. Loopy's able to defend it. I'm thinking, okay, we just got to separate, keep working on the feet. We're going to get a finish in the first round. Unfortunately, Loopy Gardinez, for some reason, a lot of strikers do this, and they have like an ego when they fight a grappler. Instead of just trying to like get away from the grappling as much as possible, they like to do this really funny thing, actually, where they shoot on the grappler. It's really funny, and it always works out. It's never not worked out ever, which is exactly what happened in this fight, because, you know, she slams her with a big suplex, doesn't even get a takedown because Tatiana lands right on her hands, and then is able to regain position and shoot in on a single leg. And from that moment in the fight's over. Tatiana gets her down, holds her down for the rest of the round, landing pitter-pat shots. Get to the second round. shoots in on her first takedown, gets it, has control for like a half a round, and submits her with a rear naked choke. Stupid from Lupi Gordinez. We've seen this so much. I don't know why guys do it. Leon Edwards, anytime he fights a grappler, he tries to take him down. Dan Hooker against Benoit Saint-Denis. Dan Hooker was piecing Benoit Saint-Denis up on the feet. He was making him come to him, doing a perfect job. And then he shoots in on a single leg, gets reversed, gets TKO'd from full mount. It's really stupid. I don't understand why they do it. But they just have an ego. They're fighters, man. Fighters got big egos. Fighters want to show that they're, the best in the world at everything, I guess. And sometimes you can't do that, But whatever. It's my first one wrong. Up the card, Mateusz Gamrot versus Estevan Ribovic. Domination from Gamrot. Ribovic was unable to defend. There was just a squirrel running across my window. That was really weird. Okay. Mateusz Gamrot dominates Esteban Ribovic in round 2 with a submission, but before that, gets him down. And as soon as he got him down the first time, he was pretty much able to just kind of camp it out. And Ribovic didn't really have an answer. Way too soon for Ribovic. His first ranked fight, and it's the guy who was like a top 7 lightweight in the world, even if he's not ranked as such. Gamrot's really good. This is a guy who beat Arman Tsarukyan in a split decision. A lot of people disagree with, but still went to a split decision with Arman. Got destroyed by Oliveira. It's Oliveira. Lost to Daniel Dariush, but Dariush is really crafty. Look what he did to Moicano. And that was like 2025 Dariush. That was 2021 Dariush, where he was really in like his second prime of his career, and that was probably prime Dariush. The Dariush that fought Gamrot, that was Dariush's best performance. So, but Gamrot's so fun to watch. That's another thing I wanted to add. He is a grappler where if you don't have anything to do, like if you don't have the grappling skills to make him work, he will. He's fine with just thinking out a decision, of course. But if you make him scramble, like in this fight, there was a moment where Ribovic made him scramble before he got submitted. Watching Gamrot scramble, it's amazing. He's one of the most entertaining grapplers in the division. Watch Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot for an example. Just the scrambles this guy's able to do. He's a wizard on the ground. He really is. And it just goes to show how good Oliveira, man. Destroyed him in a round. So, but this was a good performance for Mateusz Gamrot. This was a good bounce back performance after the Oliveira loss. This is a good one to get him on track, and this was a must win for Gamrot, even though it really wasn't. In the grand scheme of things, I think it was, because I think if Gamrot lost this fight, he would never see a ranked opponent for the rest of his career. I said that in the build-up. I still believe that to be the case if he had lost this fight, but we don't have to worry about that. Now he's probably going to be getting a Fiziev rematch, something like that. Or, trying to think, who could we match him up with off the top of my head? Maybe Quillen Selkild, if Selkild beats Dariush. Maybe do a Dariush rematch if Dariush beats Selkild. But those kind of fights, fights that'll get him ranked, even if he is still going to be used as like a gatekeeper. If Selkild wins, it'll be he's a ranked gatekeeper now. He doesn't have to worry about these unranked guys. Yeah, so good fight, good performance from Gamrot. Unfortunate for Ribovic, but he took 0 damage. Put him back in there against Chris Duncan. Have a fight of the year contender in like September. So it's a teachable moment for him. Up the card, Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. I was disappointed in this fight, not because I thought it was a bad fight. It was a decent fight. It was a decent little scrap. I was disappointed in the Randy Brown that showed up, because I thought this was one where Randy Brown was going to kind of have a vintage performance. I thought he was going to KO Kevin Holland, because we've seen guys like Daniel Rodriguez rock Kevin Holland, and Daniel Rodriguez doesn't have that much pop, and he is so untechnical, and he just kind of wings shots. But Randy Brown wasn't able to put anything on him. Kevin Holland had a really good game plan, which is crazy because it's Kevin Holland, but he came out there right away, snapping the leg kicks. Never let Randy Brown really have a chance to kind of build into the fight. Didn't try to chase him. if Randy Brown started to back up instead of trying to chase him, getting caught with the right hand. He would just leg kick him, which was really smart. And then in the second round, Randy Brown keeps like ducking down and like not even doing this. He's not rolling. He's just putting his head down and showing him his head. So Kevin Holland just grabs his neck and puts him in a Darce choke. Is able to transition. Kevin Holland in his post-fight conference said that he should have, ditched the attempt and tried to get like position, which is good. This is good. This is Kevin Holland. This is a locked-in Holland. This is like the pinnacle of locked-in Holland. Good performance from him. Doesn't get the Darce. Randy Brown's able to stay strong, but as soon as he got out of that Darce, that took everything out of him. He didn't have anything else. He couldn't go anymore after the Darce was in. After he got out of that Darce, he was done. That was like his mental victory in this fight, was getting out of that Darce, not being finished, not being submitted in that moment. Because from then, he didn't really throw anything. Maybe he broke a hand. Wasn't really throwing his hands. Started to try to go leg kick for leg kick with Holland when Holland was already up. So, good performance from Kevin Holland. Bad performance from Randy Brown. Up the card, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. One sec. Dehydrated. Gotta get some Dr. P in me. Anyway, up the card, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. Bellator versus Bellator. Both guys have been iffy in the UFC. Pico, of course, got brutally KO'd by Laurel Murphy. Pitbull got brutally knocked down against Yair Rodriguez in their fight, and that was pretty much the only moment of that fight. Then he fights Danny Ige in kind of a nothing fight where he wins off a punch that wobbled Ige. And I thought Pitbull was going to win this fight, but Pico looked good, man. Pico looked good. In the first round, in the first minute, I thought Pico was going to get KO'd because he took a couple jabs, a couple straights, and he took them really bad. He was really like, oh, whoa, and he looked wobbled when he took them. But other than that, Pitbull did nothing, and he got schooled. This was Pico's best performance that I've seen from him. Against the best guy he's fought in his career, other than Laurel Murphy. So, that's good, Pitbull did look a little washed in this fight, but he hasn't really looked good in the UFC at all. So, and we know, this version of Pitbull, this is, the same version of Pitbull that fought Dan Ige and that fought Yair Rodriguez. I don't think that he's stepped down a tier since he's been in the UFC. I just think the Pitbull that entered the UFC isn't prime Pitbull. But, with that being said, Pico can only fight the guy that's in front of him. And he beat the shit out of Patricio Pitbull. Really bad. Sorry, I had to burp. That Dr. P coming up. Pico looks really good. His boxing looks so technical. But I can never be like, oh, look at Pico, because I just know if he gets hit clean on that chin, he's going out, man. I've seen it, 4 times now? 3 times now? He's been finished 4 times. He's been brutally KO'd 3 times. He got guillotined in his debut. But yeah, I don't know, man. He has the skills to be a champion. He's a great wrestler. He mixes it up well. In this fight, he was mixing it up very well. He would jab, slip under with a double leg, get on top at the end of the rounds. A really good performance. I think this is going to be the best performance of Aaron Pico's career. I think this is the pinnacle. I don't see him really shining above this, unless he gets Aljo. If Aljo loses to Zalal, maybe he gets a Zalal and he wins that, These guys without power, I think he could beat. And there's a lot of guys without power, Evloev. Pico gives a tricky fight to Evloev, Aljo, like I said, he gives a tricky fight to Aljo. Ortega. And I think that's who no, Ortega's moving up, But I don't want to see him going in there with a Steve Garcia. If I'm Pico's team, I don't want to put him in there against a real power puncher like a Steve Garcia, a Diego Lopez, Gene Silva. Trying to think lower in the rankings now. Like a Kevin Vallejos, I think would brutally KO him. Even Giga, I'd be scared about. But Pico looked good. Good boxing fundamentals. beautiful to watch. Still scared about that chin. And I don't know how he didn't finish Pico, because he landed some bombs right on the chin. I haven't heard anything, but it did look like he broke his chin, or broke his jaw. But I haven't heard anything about that. So Pico looked good though, man. This is definitely a guy who is going to be ranked in the UFC and will beat these. He'll be like a counter wrestler kind of guy. I think he beats a lot of these grapplers in the division, but the big strikers, they're going to give him problems, I think, for sure. On to the main card. The main card opener, Cub Swanson versus Nate the Train Landwehr. Cub Swanson, in his retirement fight, he has the performance of his career. This really was, man. He looked sick. Really sick performance. Nate the Train had nothing for him on the feet. Nate Train's the type of guy who takes like a round and a bit for him to get into a fight. He needs to be knocked down a couple times, and he's too old, man. He's too old to have that style of fighting. And Cub showed that, man, because Cub's fast. Cub's powerful in the first round. He knows distance control, and he timed him perfectly. Baited the paw hand. Nate the Train tried to blitz in. Cub counters him over the top with a wicked right hand. Brutal stuff. Rocks him, sends him to the ground. He's really out of it. He's kind of staying in it. A little early, not really though, because when Nate Train got up, he was hard wrestling Herb Dean, and if Cub wanted to, he could have landed a follow-up shot, but Cub's a good guy. He didn't want to. Gets the Michael Chiesa treatment in his retirement. No, but this is a guy who actually does deserve it. He is a legend of the sport. It fought in WEC. Complete legend. Fought Aldo at WEC. Has fought the who's who at featherweight. Great career. And so it's good to see him go out on a 2-fight winning streak, 2-fight KO streak. And he deserves it. He's good. He's going into coaching. So good for him. For Nate the Train, this is a tough one. I don't think Nate the Train wins inside the UFC again, unless he gets an unk. Maybe do him versus Julian Erosa. All right, didn't Julian Erosa? Did they already fight? I don't know. I don't think so. Just don't give him like the guy who knocked out Julian Erosa in the last fight on UFC Seattle. We don't want to see that. I don't want to see Nate the Train brutally KO'd anymore. Let's give him some tough scraps. All right. Up the card, Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. All right, moving on. Curtis Blaydes versus Josh Hokit. No, I'm kidding. I'll go back. Dominic Reyes, against Johnny Walker. Terrible fight. They didn't really land much. Reyes wins, I guess. It could have gone either way. Terrible fight. All right, now moving on. Curtis Blaydes versus Josh Hokit. Josh Hokit gets a 200K bonus. Deserved. Because this was like the greatest fight I've ever seen. This was an amazing fight. It is up there with I don't know. But this was a crazy fight. This is up there with Yuri Glover type of levels of banger. That had 2 extra rounds, of course. You gotta. But this probably had more strikes landed. This was more, banger, constant action, constant stand-up action. Because how many strikes did they land? They landed 181 and 214 total strikes. That's crazy. 177 to 174 significant strikes at heavyweight in a 3-round banger. There wasn't a 15-second interval where there wasn't a combination exchange between both these guys. Crazy fight. Josh Hokit goes out there in the first round. In the first 15 seconds, knocks down Curtis Blaydes, and I'm thinking, oh, it's over. We've seen Blaydes get rocked before. He's rocked. He gets up from the knockdown. He gets stumbled to one knee. He gets up. Josh Hokit starts unloading combinations against the cage. And I'm thinking Curtis is done. You know, we've seen Curtis kind of give up in these situations, but he doesn't. He shoots it on a takedown, doesn't get it. He stays in the fight. And this is something I want to say about Curtis Blaydes. A Curtis Blaydes of 3 years ago, of 2 years ago, of 4 years ago, he would not be in this fight for a decision. This was a Curtis Blaydes that had something to prove, and that dog was in him tonight, okay? Because I've seen Curtis Blaydes kind of give up on fights a little bit, get rocked, shoot a bad takedown, and be like, I'm done. Seen him against Ngannou, the power was there, and he kind of didn't really he got kind of standing TKO'd, you know, kind of shelled up from the power. Not tonight. Even in the no, I'm not gonna say that. But not in this fight, man. He was not gonna give up on himself. He was not gonna be the guy that got TKO'd by Josh Hokit, and that's what it was. And Josh Hokit wasn't gonna be Josh Hokit. You know, I said that in the breakdown that this was a fight that Josh Hokit couldn't lose, or he was gonna get fucking clowned. You know, I don't know how he didn't get KO'd. He just has that plot armor, I guess. Curtis Blaydes, I don't know how he stayed up, because he got his nose broken, he got a shattered orbital, his face got fucked up. Hawkins' face didn't get fucked up at all, which I don't know how that happened. Because Curtis Blaydes hits hard. This isn't like a guy who's like, he has power. He's knocked out Chris Daukaus, and, you know, the legendary Chris Daukaus, you know, the great chin of Chris Daukaus. So maybe that's it. Maybe Blaydes just doesn't really hit that hard, and it was, you know, but I think he does. He doesn't hit hard, but for a heavyweight, he has like thud, and at heavyweight, thud is enough to KO you. But Josh Hawkins' head's just made out of fucking iron, because he took so many big strikes, and it was never like a 1-1, and then it would be a 1. It was like a 1-2-3 every time for either guy. They were landing so many combinations. They would clinch up, and when it would become usually a blob fest, these guys were still just hucking body shots, hucking knees. Curtis Blaydes tried to mix in the grappling. Hokit showed really good takedown defense and really good instincts on the ground, which we knew he would have because of his wrestling background. You know, this guy who wrestled Bo Nickel in the NCAA tournaments and stuff like that. So this is a guy who knows his stuff. He knows his way around on the ground. Even though he's smaller, he gets outsized. You know, Blaydes had 30 pounds on him in this fight, but it didn't matter because Hokit has that technique, you know, and he's really good. And I think he's going to beat Derek Lewis at the White House because I think he's going to mix in the grappling because he didn't try to at all in this fight, which I think he could have. I kind of wish he tried to, but that's like, that's picking on shit that, you know, that's just trying to have something to complain about because this fight was a fucking all-timer. Unanimous decision. That's crazy. Not one judge saw this fight for Curtis Blaydes. I'm pretty sure Hokit got a 30-27. But this was one I could have gone either way again. Like Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker, except this was the complete polar opposite, which was these guys did so much that it could have gone either way instead of Johnny Walker and Dominic Reyes, where they were just so pussy and just stared at each other. Could have gone either way, you know? This is a good polar opposite kind of contest. Was this the next fight after that? It was. Okay, so we literally got a polar matchup, back-to-back, fucking banger fight. It's all, like, this is really all you can say about this one. Because they were just looked like they were in a phone booth. That heavyweight just throwing leather. Greatest heavyweight fight of all time, in my opinion, for sure. And like a top 10 UFC fight of all time, for sure. And I can, you know, maybe it's higher on that list. Maybe it's, you know, that's what I can say for sure. You know, maybe Bigfoot Silva versus Mark Hunt, you can argue it's a little better because that has 5 rounds. I don't think so, man. This is crazy. There wasn't that many knockdowns. Like Josh Hawkins never got knocked down, but he was against the cage in a position that if it was like a regional ref could have stepped in. If we were in like Canada, if we were in Winnipeg on the Malott Gilbert Burns card, and this was like the co-main event, this fight could have been stopped just because a shitty ref thought Hokit was done against the cage, or thought Blaydes was done against the cage. Because there was like 20 times in this fight where both guys could have been finished against the cage if it was a stupid ref, and it could have been an early stoppage. So good reffing, better fight. I can't say good things about this fight. Josh Hokit 200K, greatly deserved. He might stiff. Hey, he could get $1.2 million within 4 months. If he gets this 200K and he goes to the White House, he gets a big performance. There's $1 million bonus. This is like life-changing stuff for Josh Hokit. So good for him. He's probably making like 20K for this fight. So that 200K goes a long fucking way. And then if he gets $1 million performance bonus, holy shit, you know. Now we're talking dude's gonna buy his mom, his grandma, and his fucking aunt a house, buying himself a mansion, you know. So good for him. Great fight, Curtis Blaydes. I hope he got his win bonus. I hope he got like a side bonus of like 100K. I think he did, because, you know, DC's come out and talked about before how he got like a side bonus for the Jones fight, where Dana just kind of threw some money at him. And this wasn't like a main event or anything, where Dana would be like, you know, it's not like a champion or a guy fighting for a belt or anything like that, but, you know, you got to throw Curtis Blaydes a couple 100K, I think. And I think you could throw Josh Hokit some side money too, just on the side. On to the co-main event. Paulo Chino Costa versus Azamat Murzakanov. Flawless performance of Paulo Costa. A lot of people saying vintage Costa. I disagree. You know why I disagree? Because this is upgraded Costa. Costa's never looked as good in his career. The Yoel Romero fight was like a split decision, really close decision where he got tagged a lot. This was a fucking domination from Paulo Chino. You know? Azamat had nothing for him. He had a little bit for the second round. You know, he probably won that second round, but first round, Paulo goes out there, beats up his body with those body kicks. This was a fight that this is kind of how I saw the fight going, man. Paulo was able to speed match him. As I said, you know, he's a southpaw, so those body kicks were wide open for him. He crushed the arms, broke the forearm of Azamat Murzakanov brutally in that third round. This is a really brutal beatdown in the first and third, and a brutal head kick finish, because he snuck a head kick. He was destroying the body. In the first round, I knew he was going to get a head kick finish, just from the way he was destroying the body. I told my dad, I was like, hey, you know, I woke up that morning, I was like, Costa's going to head kick him round 3. You could just see it, man. You could see it. Oh, I just scrolled up and saw Carlos Ulberg with the belt. Oh, it hurts. We'll get to it. But Costa looked fucking great, man. And he looked like a light heavyweight. If you were watching this fight without any knowledge of the UFC, this was your first time ever watching a card, you know one, and they were talking about someone moving up from middleweight, moving up 20 pounds to fight this fight, you would have thought it was Azamat Murzakanov 1,000%. Costa looked gigantic. He looked huge. How did this guy ever make 185? But no, he did seriously look fucking huge. Like, he looked like a true light heavyweight. And he speed maxed. He speed maxed all over Azamat Murzakanov, the density maxer, who is a speed maxer himself, you know. The Rakic fight, he caught Rakic with a jab that was so fast, Rakic got knocked out with it, you know. And because I don't think, you know, it was like and it was downward, but it was just a shot that, it was one of the ones where, like, it was just a shot you never saw coming. And it was so fast and spun his chin. And it was just like a TKO kind of thing with the Rakic fight. But, yeah. In the third, I'm all over the place for this fight, but this was such an awesome performance from Paulo Costa. Yeah, he was able to sneak in a giant head kick after he broke the arm of Azamat with a body kick. You know, I mean, we all know how it gets broken in those fights. You know, you're landing kicks right there. You don't have time to fully protect yourself from the impact. And when he's switching up the locations, he's going leg, he's going arm, he's going body, he's going head, he's mixing it up so well. Paulo was in a flow state tonight, or that night, I should say. He looked so good. He snuck the head kick up just past the guard, kind of hit his guard, and then went into his chin, and Azamat was done, man. He gave in. He was like, I'm fucking done. You know, he could have stayed in there and gotten TKO'd, but he would have gotten KO'd. He was so badly rocked after that head kick. If he stayed in it, he would have just gotten flatlined, which I kind of wish he did, but, you know, it's whatever. Paulo Costa looked great. I think he deserved a bonus, because who got the other one? I don't know who got the other one. Who got the other bonus? I could look on my phone right now. Never mind it. Oh, right. Yeah, I don't know who got the other bonus. Oh, Ulberg. Right. All right, well, on to the main event. Carlos Ulberg brutally KOs Yuri Prochazka. I already have a video posted on my channel of my immediate reaction with this fight, literally 5 minutes after it happened. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but this is a fight where it doesn't really need that much of a breakdown anyway. Carlos Ulberg is the new champion of the world. Snaps his ACL like 2 minutes into the round. And Yuri feels fucking bad for him, shows mercy, god damn it. Mercy died on that beach. Sorry, that's a Ghost of Tsushima reference. This is where Mercy dies. This is the beach where Mercy dies on. Yuri is never going to go... I don't want Yuri to fucking smile at his next opponent. I don't want him to show any kind of mercy. He's got to come back with a vengeance that is unheard of, you know? Because this is such a brutal loss. And it's not brutal because of the way it happened, because it was a brutal KO. Yuri comes in, a lazy right hand. He's like, I'll throw it. And then boom, chin, right off the nose, right there. Spun his chin, falls over his back leg. Ulberg kind of plays the drums off his head, off the mat. A little boom, it looked like a speed bag, you know, you go, but it was like that, but it was like, because it was some fucking brutal ground and pound. Bounced Yuri's head off the fucking canvas. My Czechian goat, Yuri Prochazka, gets brutally KO'd. And Carlos Ulberg is going to be out for 1.5 years. So, yay. You know, what else can I say, man? What do we do next? Fuck it. Who fucking knows? Nuke the whole division. I don't know. Like, this was sick performance. Definitely a moment that'll go down in UFC history. It's like a crazy moment. Ulberg winning the belt on one leg. Great call by John Anik, by the way. Ulberg wins the UFC light heavyweight belt on one leg. Yeah, man. What else can you say, really? Ulberg blows his ACL. Yuri... And there's a lot of people saying that they don't think he showed mercy. Mercy's not the right word. But it threw Yuri's head. It messed with Yuri's head. And I think that's all that matters. Because does Yuri stand there and eat that and just... Like... I don't know, man. Like, it's just... You could see it. You could see it right away. You could see it as soon as Ulberg went down and as soon as the dust kind of settled from the initial fall down and everyone kind of knew what was going on. You could see it mess with Yuri's head. You could see Yuri being like, tough, man. You could see him, you could see him being like, I feel bad for the guy. And you can't do that in a fight, you know? Peter Yan. That shit happens in a Peter Yan fight. Fucking Peter Yan is gonna fucking pick the other leg up and fucking oblique kick the other leg, the injured leg of Ulberg while he has the other leg, you know? Fucking, there's so many guys you can go to. Aldo in the Korean Zombie fight. The Korean Zombie fucking separates his shoulder. Does Aldo go, what are you gonna do? Let's just stand. You know, like, no, he fucking kicks him in the shoulder. In the dislocated shoulder, you know, and that's the kind of shit you have to do if you want to be a champion. And a lot of people have a hard time going to that dark place, man. Yuri had a hard time going to that dark place in this one. And that's where he needed to. Oh, it's so unfortunate. It is. Good for Ulberg, though. This was a star-making performance for Ulberg, for sure. He's a 10 times bigger name than he was before this fight. Yuri's Yuri. You know, Yuri will always be a kind of big name. But Ulberg definitely made himself, I'm not going to say a superstar, but he's definitely an emerging star. The recovery is going to be hard. And we'll see when he can come back. Because if he can come back this year, I highly doubt it. But if he can, this is good, you know. This is a good thing. I don't think he will, though. I think it'll be like a year and a half before we see Ulberg, which fucking sucks. Because I do like Ulberg. He's good. But maybe this is to take a little positive from a negative situation, which is this whole fight. This gives a little breathing time for the light heavyweight division, because there's no one in the top 7 other than Paulo Costa coming off a win. That's a true fact, you know? So we got to give some time. We got to get some fights booked here at 205. We got to get some guys coming off at least a win, you know? Like, let's do Ank versus Paulo, or Paulo versus fucking someone in the top 5. Khalil Roundtree, fuck it. Get Yuri. You know, Yuri's going to need probably like 6 months off. He got KO'd. He did get KO'd. So he'll need... Last time he got KO'd, it was against Pereira in June on International Fight Week. He came back in January. So that's 6 months, yeah. So we'll see Yuri probably again September, get him in there. And I think Ulberg will still be recovering by then. Like, he won't be able to train for like another 6 months. So there's time to build a contender. I don't think we need to panic and vacate Ulberg because the division's so dead right now. That this can be good. This can be a good time to kind of build some people up, get some fight booked, get some guys in line for the belt, you know. Maybe do an interim belt, but we'll see. And Ulberg's old, too. He's 35. He'll be 36, 37 when he comes back, so not a good time to blow your ACL, but at least he blew his ACL in the win, and he's a UFC champion, instead of, you know, blowing his ACL and losing, and having to wait 12 months, get back in there against, like, I don't know, like a Guskov coming off a brutal KO or something like that, you know? KO win. And then, you know, it's a little different. So, good for Ulberg, you know? You can't really say that this was, like, a fluke either way, because you can't say it's a fluke when the guy who blew his ACL out won, you know? Like, I see a lot of people trying to say that for Yuri. Neither guy can really say that it's not a really definitive victory for either way, but you can't discredit Ulberg for sleeping Yuri. And you can discredit Prohaska for the choke, you know? So, there it is. Also, apparently Ulberg already lost the belt. I saw that earlier this morning, so it's really, yeah, you know, he was partying and he lost the fucking belt. He's like, I don't care. So, Yuri won that shit. We all know he wouldn't party. He'd be going back home in the check. He'd be having that shit wrapped around his waist the whole time. No one would be able to touch it. His daughter wouldn't be able to touch it. You'd go, no, off limits. So, it's sad. Different mindsets this time, you know. Yeah, it's polar opposites in lifestyle is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't think we'll hear from Yuri Prohaska. You know, he put out a statement saying I showed mercy and everything like that, and he will never do it again. He's gonna go train at Cobra Kai, I hear, so that's good. But Yuri's gonna lock himself in a fucking pitch black room for maybe 6 months. We won't see anyone, won't eat anything or talk to anyone, so yeah. That's it. Great card. Fucking terrible main event for me because I'm such a big Prohaska fan, but don't feel too bad, folks, because we got UFC Winnipeg coming up. Mike Malott versus Gilbert Burns. Hold on now. Oh, don't get too carried away now, folks. We got a banger coming up. All right, see you guys. Spawn MMA. Out.